Have you ever wondered why, despite everything you've accomplished, you still feel like you can't shake off the heaviness, the weight of unseen forces that seem to keep pushing you back, keeping you tethered to something that no longer serves you? It's a battle you didn't ask for, one that you may not even fully understand. But it's a battle that, if you're reading this, has been a part of your life from the beginning, and it is time to face it. The chosen ones, those of you who have felt the pull of something greater, the ones destined for a life of purpose beyond the ordinary, this message is for you. You've always known you were different, that you were meant for something more. But somewhere along the way, you've also encountered a force, an enemy hiding in plain sight, in the very person who should have been your greatest ally, your mother, the one who gave you life, the one who was meant to love and protect you unconditionally. Yet, for many of you, this is not the reality you experienced. This hidden battle is one that's been raging in silence for too long. It's not a battle that takes place on the outside, in the physical world, but deep inside your heart, your soul. It's a battle for your spirit. The one place you should feel safe, nurtured, and protected has become the very ground where the darkest forces fight to keep you small, trapped, and unaware of your true potential. In this journey, you'll begin to understand that the greatest enemy you face may not always be the external forces in your life. The job, the societal pressures, the relationships that don't work out, but the unseen forces within the people closest to you, the ones who should be lifting you up, but are instead the ones dragging you down. This is not just a fight against your own limitations or against the world around you. It is a fight to reclaim the truth of who you really are, the destiny you were born for, and the strength that lies deep within you. The illusion of unconditional love. We all grow up with an image of what a mother's love should look like. The world teaches us that a mother's love is selfless, pure, and unwavering. From the moment we are born, we are supposed to be wrapped in a warm cocoon of affection and safety. This image of maternal love is almost universally celebrated in stories, songs, and society's expectations. We believe it's the one bond that will never break, the one constant in a world full of uncertainty. But for some of us, this picture is not just incomplete, it is a complete illusion. You were raised in a home where love came with conditions. It wasn't about nurturing, it was about control. You may not have realized it at the time, but as you grew older, the cracks in that facade became impossible to ignore. The love that was promised to you had a price. It was a love that came with strings attached, one that was doled out based on your obedience, your performance, your conformity to an ideal that was never truly yours to begin with. A mother's love is supposed to be a sanctuary, a place where you can rest, recharge, and be encouraged to grow into your true self. But when the love you receive comes with manipulation, criticism, and conditional approval, it doesn't nurture you, it stifles you. Instead of feeling supported, you feel like you're constantly being pushed to prove your worth. Instead of being loved for who you are loved for what you do, for how well you meet the expectations laid out for you. And if you fall short, if you deviate from the path that has been set for you, the love is withdrawn. This love, however, is not love at all. It's a reflection of deep insecurity and unresolved emotional wounds within the one who should be your protector. The sad truth is that many mothers, instead of fulfilling their nurturing role, are trapped in their own emotional immaturity. They project their unhealed wounds onto their children, using their power as a parent to keep their children tethered to them, to make sure they never outgrow the role they have assigned them. And the truth is, this isn't just about one isolated mother or one family. It is a pattern seen across many generations. The illusion of unconditional love keeps you trapped in this cycle. You are taught to believe that if you just love harder, if you just try more, if you become the person she expects you to be, you will finally earn the love that should have been freely given. But the reality is that this love will never be enough. The goalposts will constantly shift. And no matter how hard you try, it will never feel like enough because it was never about you in the first place. It was about her needs, her fears, her insecurities, the enemy you never saw coming. We're often told that the greatest threats to our happiness, success, and peace will come from the outside world, from the forces we can see, the people we can identify, and the problems that arise in our daily lives. But for the chosen ones, the true enemy has always been much closer to home. The real battle has not been with the world. It has been with the person who should have been your greatest supporter, the one person who was supposed to show you the way, to hold your hand and lift you up as you made your way into the world. Instead, that person, your mother, has become your greatest obstacle. The wounds inflicted by someone who should have been your greatest ally go deeper than you realize. It's not just that they hurt you, it's that they did it under the guise of love, with the intent to keep you small, to keep you dependent, to keep you from realizing your full potential. You never saw this enemy coming because you were taught to believe that this person would always have your back. The person who brought you into the world was supposed to protect you from the external dangers, from the harshness of life, not add to the struggle. But for many chosen ones, this is where the betrayal begins, at home, from the one person who should have been your biggest cheerleader. Instead, you were met with resistance, not from the world, but from within your own home. What is the cause of this? It's often jealousy, insecurity, and unresolved pain. The enemy within your mother is not a conscious decision to harm you, but a deeply ingrained emotional struggle that she has never addressed. In her mind, your success is a direct threat to her sense of worth. Every step you take forward, every accomplishment you achieve, is a reminder of what she failed to accomplish, what she didn't achieve, what dreams she gave up on or sacrificed for you. Instead of celebrating your success, she sees it as a silent indictment of her own life choices. And instead of embracing you as the shining light you are meant to be, she begins to compete with you, subtly trying to hold you back to maintain a sense of control over your destiny. This is the enemy you never saw coming. You were taught to trust your mother, to believe in the unconditional love she would offer, but instead, you found yourself battling her criticism, her undermining comments, her rejection of your dreams. This invisible force, this subtle sabotage, became the greatest battle you have faced. The enemy was not a stranger, but the one person you trusted most, your mother. Spiritual warfare, witchcraft, and curses. In the struggle between light and darkness, there are forces at play that go beyond what we see with our eyes or understand with our minds. We often assume that the biggest battles are the ones we fight in the physical realm, but there are deeper, unseen forces that manipulate, control, and bind us on a much more profound level. As a chosen one, you have always felt a higher calling, a spiritual destiny. But you may not have realized that the very person who should have been guiding you on that path, the person who brought you into the world, has been working to keep you bound to a past, a pain, and an energy that doesn't belong to you. This isn't just about emotional manipulation. This is about spiritual warfare, a battle that is waged not just in the material world, but in the unseen realms. It is the battle for your soul, and it is a battle that, for many, involves not only psychological tactics, but also dark spiritual practices, things like witchcraft, curses, and the invocation of negative energies. It may sound extreme, but these things happen. Some mothers, in their desperation to maintain control over their children or their families, turn to the occult, to magic, to forces that are far beyond human understanding. When you have experienced the depth of manipulation from someone who is supposed to love you, you begin to see that their control over you is not merely emotional, it is spiritual. Curses are not just words spoken out of frustration or malice. They are energetic bindings that hold you in a state of powerlessness, keeping you tethered to someone else's unresolved issues and desires. In the most extreme cases, a mother who sees her child as an extension of herself, rather than a separate, autonomous being, may turn to dark forces to bind her child to her will. These are not just fleeting spells or harmless attempts at control. They are desperate, malevolent acts designed to stifle the child's growth and success, to make them reliant, dependent, and emotionally tied to the toxic influence of their mother. At the core of these dark practices lies fear. Fear that the child will outgrow the mother's influence, fear that they will surpass her, fear that they will escape the cage of control she has so carefully constructed. This fear manifests in ways that are deeply damaging. It isn't enough for her to keep you emotionally enslaved. She resorts to spiritual means, hoping to bind you energetically so that no matter how far you go or how much you achieve, you will always be tethered back to her. For many, the experience of these spiritual tactics can take the form of inexplicable misfortunes, health problems that seem to have no cause, a sense of fatigue or depression that feels like it isn't yours, accidents or setbacks that seem too perfectly timed to be random. These are the signs that something darker is at play, and recognizing this truth is the first step in breaking free from the bonds that have been placed upon you. When love turns into control, love is meant to set us free. Love should be the force that lifts us, that allows us to grow into the fullness of who we are meant to be. But for some of us, the love we've received has been suffocating. Instead of being a force of empowerment, it has become a tool of control, a means by which our independence and our potential are systematically suppressed. You may have experienced this in your own life, where your mother's love, which you once thought was pure, became an invisible chain that bound you to her. At first, it may have seemed like love, a devotion to your well-being, a desire to protect you from the world. But over time, this protective love transformed into something more sinister, a love that controlled your every move, that dictated the choices you made, the relationships you had, and the person you became. When love turns into control, it is no longer about what is best for you. It is about the mother's need to maintain power over you. She no longer sees you as an independent, autonomous being, but as an extension of herself. Your choices become a threat to her identity, your success a challenge to her authority. In these situations, the mother might offer love only when you meet her expectations, when you stay within the boundaries she has set for you. But the moment you step outside of those boundaries, the love is withdrawn, replaced by criticism, manipulation, or even silence. This conditional love becomes a means of control, a way to keep you small, to prevent you from stepping into your true power. This is not love, this is manipulation. When love turns into control, the power dynamic shifts. Instead of being nurtured and supported, you are treated as a pawn in a game of emotional chess. The mother, fearful of losing her grip on you, seeks to influence every aspect of your life. She may try to control your relationships, your career choices, your personal growth, all to ensure that you stay tethered to her in a way that serves her needs, not yours. But breaking free from this control is essential for your growth. Love that suppresses and diminishes your spirit is not love at all. It is an illusion. And as long as you remain under that illusion, you cannot fully realize your potential. It is only when you reject this toxic form of love, when you begin to recognize the control for what it is, that you can start the journey toward reclaiming your true self. Rejection of the self and the power of independence. For so many chosen ones, the path to self-realization has been marred by rejection. The rejection of your true self, your authentic desires, and your unique path in life. The rejection didn't come from the world around you. It came from the person who should have accepted you most, your mother. It's a rejection that leaves scars deep within, and one that takes a long time to recognize, because it is often hidden behind the facade of love and care. Your mother may have rejected parts of you not because they were flawed, but because they represented something she could not control. Your uniqueness, your independence, your ability to think for yourself, these qualities became a threat. The rejection wasn't necessarily overt, but it was felt in every word that dismissed your dreams, every act that attempted to undermine your confidence, every time she told you that what you wanted wasn't good enough. The most painful part of this rejection is that it makes you question your worth. When the person who should have nurtured you instead seeks to suppress your individuality, you begin to doubt whether your desires, your talents, or your dreams are valid. You may even start to believe that you are undeserving of the success, the happiness, and the freedom you've longed for. This is the power of toxic conditioning. But the truth is, this rejection is not a reflection of your value. It is a reflection of her own unresolved issues, her own insecurities and fears. But here's the most liberating truth you can embrace. You are not meant to stay trapped in her narrative. Your path is not defined by the limitations she imposed on you. You are meant to rise above them, to break free from the rejection and claim the power of independence. This independence isn't just about financial freedom or living alone. It is about reclaiming your right to exist as your authentic self. It is about stepping into the fullness of your power, to embrace the unique qualities that make you who you are, and to reject the narrative of control, manipulation, and suppression that has been imposed upon you. Independence is the key to unlocking your potential. It is through independence that you break free from the chains of emotional dependence, from the toxic love that has kept you small. And as you step into this power, you will realize that the rejection you once felt was not about you, it was about her fear. Fear that you might surpass her, fear that you might become the person she could never be. But now you are free. You are no longer bound by the fear that was projected onto you. You are free to become the person you were always meant to be. The weight of the past, healing from the wounds. Healing is never easy. It requires facing the darkest parts of yourself, confronting the pain that you've tried to bury, and breaking free from the chains of the past that have held you captive. For many chosen ones, the weight of the past is heavy. It is the weight of emotional wounds inflicted by the very people who should have loved and supported you. The wounds are not just emotional, they are spiritual, psychological, and at times physical. They manifest in ways that affect every aspect of your life, from your relationships to your sense of self-worth. Healing begins with the acknowledgement that you have been wounded. The first step is accepting that what you have experienced is real, that the pain, the rejection, the manipulation, and the spiritual warfare are real, and they have had a lasting impact on your soul. You cannot heal what you do not acknowledge, and for too long, you may have ignored the signs of your own suffering, believing that if you just moved on, everything would be okay. But healing doesn't come from ignoring the past. It comes from confronting it head-on, understanding how it has shaped you, and choosing to release it. The wounds left by a toxic mother are deep. They cut to the core of who you are, making you question your worth, your ability to trust, and your place in the world. But you are not bound to the past. Healing is possible. It requires you to revisit those wounds, to feel the pain, and to allow yourself to grieve for the love that was never given. It requires you to forgive, not for her sake, but for your own. Forgiveness is not about condoning the abuse or excusing the manipulation. It is about freeing yourself from the chains of resentment so that you can move forward and create the life you deserve. Healing is a journey, and it will not be easy. But as you take each step, you will feel the weight of the past lifting. You will begin to reclaim the parts of yourself that were lost, and in doing so, you will become whole once again. You are worthy of healing. You are worthy of peace. And it is time to stop carrying the weight of the past any longer. The power within, embracing your true self. At the core of your being lies a power that is waiting to be awakened. It is the essence of who you are, the light that has been with you since the moment you were born, and it is ready to shine through the darkness that has tried to cover it. For too long, you have been held back, conditioned to believe that you are not enough, that your true self is not worthy of love, success, or fulfillment. But now, you are at the point of awakening. You are ready to embrace your true self and the power that comes with it. The journey to self-realization is not an easy one, but it is the most rewarding. It requires you to shed the layers of fear, doubt, and self-sabotage that have been placed upon you by others. It requires you to look within and reconnect with the truth of who you are. Your true self is not defined by your past, your mistakes, or the expectations placed upon you. It is defined by your inherent worth, your unique gifts, and your divine purpose. As you embrace this power within, you will begin to see the world differently. You will stop living in the shadow of your mother's control and start living in the light of your own truth. You will no longer seek approval from others because you will already know that you are enough. You are worthy of all the success, love, and peace that the world has to offer. The power within you is limitless. You are capable of achieving greatness. You are capable of creating the life you've always dreamed of. And now you are ready to step into that power. No one, not even your mother, can take that away from you. The mother's response, jealousy and fear. As a chosen one, you've spent much of your life feeling the weight of your mother's response to your growth. Her reaction to your achievements, your independence, and your potential has been a constant undercurrent, one that you may not have fully understood until now. What you may not have realized is that her response has been shaped by powerful forces of jealousy and fear, forces that go far deeper than simple maternal concern. These emotions are not just fleeting feelings, they are deeply ingrained in her psyche, stemming from her own insecurities and unhealed wounds. The truth is, a mother who has unresolved issues with her own life, whether it's unfulfilled dreams, lost opportunities, or emotional scars, will often project those unresolved emotions onto her child. Your growth becomes a mirror that reflects everything she feels she has lost. Your success, your happiness, your freedom, these things, which should be a source of pride and joy for any mother, become triggers for her jealousy. In her eyes, you are not just succeeding. You are reminding her of what she could not achieve, what she left behind, and what she failed to become. At the core of this jealousy lies fear. It is a fear that you will surpass her, that you will leave her behind, that your growth will render her irrelevant. She may never openly admit this fear, but it quietly shapes every interaction, every word, every criticism she offers. Instead of celebrating your victories, she undermines them. Instead of lifting you up, she tries to pull you back down to her level. This is the toxic dynamic that many chosen ones face. The mother who cannot bear to see her child rise above her, because in doing so, she feels as though she has failed in some way. You may have sensed this jealousy in the form of subtle comments, the backhanded compliments, the dismissive gestures, or the way your successes are belittled instead of celebrated. These reactions are rooted in the fear that your independence will threaten her control. The reality is, this isn't about you. It's about her inability to accept her own limitations, her unresolved emotions, and the fear that her identity as a mother is tied to your dependence on her. She sees you not as an individual, but as an extension of her own ego and expectations. For many, this jealousy leads to a toxic cycle where the mother not only withholds love and support, but also begins to actively sabotage her child's efforts to grow and thrive. This can take many forms, from passive-aggressive behavior to outright emotional manipulation. But beneath it all lies the same core issue: fear. Fear that you, the chosen one, will leave her behind. Fear that your independence will expose the gaps in her own life. And fear that you will break free from the emotional shackles she has placed on you. As difficult as it is to acknowledge, you must confront the reality that your mother's jealousy and fear are not your fault. They are reflections of her own internal struggles. And until she faces her own demons, she will continue to project them onto you. This is where the true battle begins, not just with the external world, but with the emotional and spiritual warfare you have been caught in for so long. Understanding this dynamic is the first step in reclaiming your power, because once you realize that her jealousy and fear are not about you, you can begin to break free from their grip. The spiritual war, fighting back with awareness. The battle you have faced is not just an emotional one, it is spiritual in nature. For years, you have been caught in a web of manipulation and control, and the more you grow, the more the forces trying to keep you tethered to your past will fight back. But you are not powerless. In fact, the moment you realize that you are a spiritual being, capable of wielding immense power, you take the first step in turning the tide of this war. The truth is that your awareness is your greatest weapon. The forces that have kept you small, whether they be your mother's jealousy, the spiritual manipulations she may have used, or the general emotional toxicity surrounding you, thrive on your ignorance. They thrive when you are unaware of your true power, when you are emotionally dependent, and when you accept the narrative of limitation that has been imposed upon you. But once you awaken to the truth that you are a being of light, destined for greatness, these forces begin to lose their power over you. Your awareness of the spiritual dimensions of the battle you are facing will allow you to recognize the manipulations for what they are. No longer will you be a pawn in a game that was never meant for you. Instead, you will reclaim your agency and begin to fight back. The first step in this battle is to recognize the energy dynamics at play. There are two forces at work, one that seeks to empower you and one that seeks to keep you trapped. The energy that surrounds you, the one that seeks to suppress you, make you doubt yourself, and keep you dependent on others, is the force of darkness. The other energy, the one that seeks to lift you up, to help you heal, and to guide you to your true purpose, is the force of light. It is in this spiritual war that you must choose which energy you will align with. You cannot serve both. You cannot live in the shadow of someone else's fear and jealousy and still hope to fulfill your destiny. But the battle isn't easy. The forces trying to hold you down will not give up without a fight. They will use every tactic at their disposal: emotional manipulation, spiritual sabotage, and subtle attacks on your confidence. But with awareness, you can see these attacks for what they are. You can recognize them as the desperate moves of a mother who is terrified of losing control, of a world that refuses to let you break free from the chains it has placed upon you. And once you see these forces for what they are, you can begin to take steps to protect yourself. This protection is spiritual in nature. It requires you to strengthen your connection to your higher self, to trust in your inner wisdom, and to seek the guidance of divine forces that support you on your journey. Prayer, meditation, and spiritual practices can fortify your spirit against the negative energy that seeks to drag you back into the darkness. You must also protect yourself emotionally by setting clear boundaries, both with your mother and with anyone else who tries to undermine your growth. These boundaries are not just physical, they are energetic. You must learn to guard your energy, to protect your peace, and to refuse to allow anyone to drain your vitality or your spirit. Fighting back in this spiritual war requires strength, vigilance, and an unwavering commitment to your own growth. The forces of darkness may try to break you, but they cannot do so unless you allow them. When you align yourself with the light, with the divine truth of who you are, there is no force that can stand in your way. The awakening, reclaiming your destiny. There comes a moment in every chosen one's life when the truth becomes undeniable. It's as if the curtain is pulled back and the veil of illusion that has kept you from seeing your true path is lifted. This moment of awakening is both painful and liberating. It's painful because you must face the reality of the manipulation and control you've experienced, the ways in which your mother's jealousy and fear have shaped your life and your decisions. But it is also liberating because it marks the moment when you take back control over your own destiny. The awakening is not an event, it is a process. It is the moment when you stop looking for validation from others, especially from your mother, and start recognizing that the only approval you need is your own. This is when you begin to see your life for what it truly is, a sacred journey, one that is meant to be lived on your own terms. You are not here to live someone else's story, to fulfill someone else's dreams, or to meet someone else's expectations. You are here to fulfill your own purpose, to walk your own path, and to embrace the greatness that lies within you. Reclaiming your destiny requires that you let go of the emotional and spiritual baggage that has weighed you down for so long. It requires you to release the limiting beliefs, the fear, and the guilt that have kept you bound to a past that no longer serves you. It requires you to stop looking to your mother or anyone else for permission to live your truth. The truth is, you do not need anyone's approval to be great. You are already great. Your success, your happiness, and your peace do not depend on anyone else. They are your birthright. This awakening is the moment when you realize that your destiny is not something that is bestowed upon you by someone else. It is something you must claim for yourself. You are the author of your own story, and it is time to step into the fullness of who you are meant to be. The final victory. The final victory is not just about defeating the forces that have tried to hold you back. It is not just about reclaiming your independence or healing from the wounds of the past. The final victory is about embracing the fullness of who you are, about stepping into the life you were always meant to live and living it unapologetically. The final victory is about breaking free from the chains of the past, from the toxic patterns of your upbringing, and from the limitations that others have placed upon you. It is about standing tall, knowing that you are worthy, knowing that you are enough, and knowing that you are destined for greatness. This victory is not one that can be taken from you. No one, not your mother, not the world, can dim the light that you carry inside of you. You have been through the fire, and you have come out stronger, wiser, and more resilient than ever. You have faced the darkness, and now you stand in the light. The final victory is yours. It is the moment when you realize that you have always been in control of your destiny, that you were never truly bound by anyone's expectations, and that your power has always been within you. Now you can live your life fully, authentically, and without apology. You can heal, grow, and step into the fullness of who you were always meant to be. No one can take that away from you. This is your final victory, your awakening to your true self, your true power, and your true destiny. And no force, no person, and no circumstance can ever take that away from you again.